My guest at this time was previously seen on WWE NXT TV as Bronson Reed. You can now find him out on social media and hopefully soon out on the broader pro wrestling landscape. It is Jonah. Jonah, welcome to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
No, thanks for having me, Nick.
My pleasure. Hey, I just got to get you, this just broke right now.
Yeah.
I got to get your take on this, man. Like the report that Meltzer just put out is that, and by the way, in the time we were figuring out tech stuff, I did get it confirmed by people there. This is happening, man. Ring of Honor just released all their wrestlers from their contracts. What's your reaction to that?
It's very shocking. I think like in the time that we were setting things up, mainly me trying to figure out what I was doing, I have friends within the business that have messaged me straight away saying like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I assume it has to do with, obviously, unfortunately, the pandemic has affected a lot of wrestling companies and what they've been able to earn every quarter. And it looks like, I guess, this is just me guessing, it's from that. And that's what's happened with Ring of Honor. But I do have some friends in Australia that were set to do work with Ring of Honor. So I'm hoping for them that they can still do so.
Man, and so, like, obviously you're a hot free agent, right? There's been reports about you in New Japan and Impact and, maybe elsewhere. But with Ring of Honor, did you ever talk to them? Was that someplace you ever considered as you've been out there right now?
I'm still, obviously, in talks with different companies. Ring of Honor was something that was definitely on my radar that I've had, I have friends within the business that are like, it's a good place to work. I have nothing set in stone with them or anything along those lines, but it was something that I would definitely be interested in, but hopefully it's something that can survive, I guess. That seems to be the next question.
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd talk to them or not, and just to kind of get an insight of what their negotiating abilities were at the moment. But anyway.
When I was first released, I had someone reach out from Ring of Honor, but nothing really since. So
Okay, gotcha. So wait, while we're talking about it here, there were those reports about New Japan and Impact Wrestling. What are you looking for right now, I guess, in your next big step in professional wrestling, Jonah?
Yeah, well, I'm not allowed to. I'm not at liberty to say exactly what's going to happen, but I am at the moment this week getting everything confirmed with immigration, so everything should be good to go wherever I do go. But basically, I feel like the last few years, it exposed me to the rest of the world. People got to see what Bronson Reed had to offer, but not really what Jonah had to offer. I was very much set in a mold of what WWE wanted me to be. So going forward, it's more what I myself want to be as Jonah. So I'm looking to have some pretty cool matches and fun matches, a little different to what I did in WWE.
Sure. And so wait, with the visa stuff, how does that work? Are you going to have issues?
It's a complete nightmare. That's how it works. But no issues. Everything's like pretty much set in stone now. I have a great set of lawyers actually helping me out. As of next week, things should be set in stone for me to be able to work places. And, I'm not going to say anything, but I think November you'll get to see Jonah around some places.
Sure, because there were rumors, I guess, that you were going to have something to do with Bound for Glory, and it didn't come together. Was that visa related, or was it something else that caused that to not come together?
At the moment, it's everything's to do with immigration. So I'm not able legally to do anything wrestling wise until all my immigration is sorted, but it should be sorted very soon. And I'm very happy about that.
Okay, so you're a little bit like a bull in a pin right now.
Yes, yeah, very much. I'm ready to go, but I'm just making sure that when I do go, everything's legal and I can stay within the country.
Sure. Well, the best bulls buck the hardest after they've been poked a couple times. It sounds like you've been poked a couple times here right now recently.
Yeah, for sure. I think by the time that I'm actually able to do something, it would have been over 3 months since I had actually worked a wrestling match. So I'm very eager. As someone that, even before being in WWE, I used to wrestle as much as possible.
Yeah.
So it's very strange. It's been the longest time in my wrestling career where I've gone without actually having a wrestling match.
Yeah, because you what was it, 2007 or so that you kind of started your career in professional wrestling?
Yeah, it started in 2007 in Australia. I did the independent Australian wrestling scene for a long time. When I first started, it wasn't as viable as it is now to be able to do shows every weekend.
Sure.
I'd maybe wrestle once or twice a month, if that. But it started picking up. Now the Australian wrestling scene is pretty good. I know COVID has sort of changed things a little, but it's all starting to come back. And then from there, I got to go and wrestle in Japan, and that's when I sort of my career went off a little bit more once I got a contract in Japan.
So was that when you think you got on WWE's radar? Like, when did you first know that they had interest in plucking you up and putting you in their system?
Yeah, 100%. My first contract for Pro Wrestling Noah at the time in Japan was 2013. And then the start or midway through 2014 was my first tryout with WWE. So it definitely helped me out. It helped me get seen by them. And obviously when they do go and see talent, they always, they always have information on everyone. So they can see who's done what. And a lot of the other Australian people at the time hadn't done anything like that. So I was very fortunate. And then from there, they kept an open dialogue with me, telling me what they wanted to see from me. It wasn't a no, but it wasn't a yes. And that took a few years before they actually did sign me.
So what was the hangups? What were they waiting to see from you think, before they eventually put pen to paper?
I mean, it seems like what they want is constantly changing. So I think at the moment, if you look at NXT 2.0, me in 2014 would have fit perfectly there. I was younger, maybe a little less polished, something that they could mold. Whereas when they were seeing me in 2014, they wanted people that were polished. They wanted the top of indie wrestlers. So that was their directive. They said, get out there more, go wrestle more, which I did. I ended up wrestling here in the States. I ended up touring all around Europe, in the UK, and more in Japan. So whereas now I think that sort of changed, and the directive is a little bit more on athletes.
So why do you think that is? I mean, I'm sure you've had some time to think about that. Why do you think that the mindset changed in the last 6 months or so?
It's really hard to know. It's a confusing thing. I think no one but one man knows exactly what they want in WWE. So it's sort of up to him. And if he says this is the directive we're going in, it all trickles down, and then everyone has to adhere to that.
Did you ever sense that there was frustrations with Hunter and Shawn, trying to do what they wanted to do while also having to deal with that one man that you're talking about? Did you ever sense there was issues or tension?
At first, no. I think, the time I came in, we were still doing just tapings at Full Sail, and then it ended up getting its USA Network deal and going on cable. So they really did push it, and it did seem like we were a third brand. That's what Hunter, that's what Shawn, that's what everyone was saying. Like, this is a third brand. You don't need to go to Raw or SmackDown anymore. We're going to focus on this being a big third show. Obviously, given that we have TV time.
Right.
So for that first year of TV time, I think everyone backstage saw it as, hey, we're NXT. We're something different. We're still part of WWE. We're something different, but we're focusing on trying to make this great. And it seemed like that's what it was. It seemed like Vince didn't really care so much, and it was just Hunter's baby. But in this, this year, this last 6 months or so, I think that's all changed, and some frustration definitely has grown backstage. I've seen it firsthand.
Do you think it just comes down to, like, we had this Wednesday night war, and you guys didn't get the job done? That's sometimes the vibe I think a lot of fans get from the message boards, and what they hear from other various sources and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% too sure. I know as much as Hunter and some of the top guys would say, like, we're not in direct competition. We're focusing on our own thing. We're just trying to make our own product as good as possible. There always was that bit of competition, and I don't know what the higher ups thought of that, thought of us, obviously losing to AEW week in, week out. But we were still putting on great TV, and I don't know if they just thought maybe we weren't. But my whole thing is they didn't watch the product, so how did they know? So to then completely revamp it, how do you know that this is now going to be successful if you didn't watch what was happening before?
I think there's a lot of truth into what you're saying right there. I mean, NXT, you were, first of all, you were a wonderful North American champion, and just
Thank you. Appreciate that.
you're really just a fun person to watch. Like, I mean, your finisher, I mean, you sit there, you're like, oh my God, he's going to murder somebody doing. I mean,
Yeah.
well, pause real quick. Is there anybody who's ever been scared to take your finisher or no? Because I imagine there's some fear there.
I think most people.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever had one opponent that hasn't said to me after a match while they were laying there they weren't they weren't scared for their life. Because it is, it's I'm 340-pound man jumping high up into the air and then landing onto you. I can imagine being on the other side of that, what that would feel like. I mean, I've taken a moonsault from Keith Lee, so I think I remember what that feeling is like. Like, it is a little scary. But yeah, I think most people are scared, but once it's done, it's done.
Was that something you came in wanting to do as your finisher, or was it like, hey, we're going to try a couple of things out, and what do you guys think about this? And like, what was the reaction when you did it? Because I would imagine that's going to get a reaction,
Yeah, it was me actually. I was doing a frog splash on the independents. And then by the end of my independent run, I sort of stopped doing a frog splash and started trying to focus on just getting the best top rope splash that I could do. And then once I got onto TV, I was doing it on the live Coconut Florida shows for NXT. And obviously all those coaches and stuff see, but Shawn and Hunter aren't 100% watching those. But once I got onto TV and they actually put me over a couple of times, I made sure that that's the move that I used to win. And I remember Hunter and both Shawn loving it so much because it was impressive. So I was like, okay, I got something here. And then once I had a few wins with it, that's when I came up with the name for Tsunami as well, because it's not just a big splash. It's bigger than a big splash.
I love it. I love all of that. And so just, as I kind of meander around different topics here, like, what was it like for you having a relationship with Shawn Michaels and Triple H? Like, how was that? Not just working for them, but kind of like befriending them, I guess, in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, very much a pinch yourself sort of moment. I grew up idolizing these guys, especially Shawn Michaels. Like, I've been a wrestling fan since I can remember, since the age of 3, since I was first watching VHS tapes. And around that time, early 90s and mid 90s, like, that was the time of Shawn Michaels. Like, I remember being a kid watching the boyhood dream come true, and all of those things. So for then years down the line for me to be, texting back and forth with HBK saved in my phone, sometimes I have to pinch myself and be like, oh wow, like, I'm actually talking to Mr. WrestleMania. But it does become a bit more of a, working, it becomes just like work, and then you become used to each other, and then you tend to forget. But every now and again, I'd make sure to remind myself that, like, hey, young Jonah would be so happy right now.
What was their reaction to your release? Because I find it hard to believe that they were like, yay, let's release Bronson Reed. That doesn't seem like them,
Yeah, I mean, right before being released, I remember Hunter sitting down with me and telling me plans that we had going forward. He was always a big advocate for me and wanting me to be successful. He was actually the one that suggested for me to do the dark matches for the main roster, saying that I was ready for those matches. I don't think he ever thought I'd be released. And I haven't been able to speak to him since. I know he's obviously going through some health problems and stuff like that.
Of course.
But Shawn, as soon as I was released, 5 minutes later, he texted me shocked, telling me to go and sort of prove them wrong. That was his words to me.
Wow, dude. And
Yeah.
I would imagine that's pretty big motivation there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he's such like a great mind for wrestling, but also someone that, I think in these sort of times you sort of see who does care for you and who doesn't. I had a lot of people reach out to me from NXT coaches, stuff like that, but then there was still a lot that didn't. And to have him reach out and still want me to be successful, and he let me know I can contact him at any time for advice and stuff like that, it shows that it's not just about business at the end of the day. You do build these friendships and genuinely want people to succeed.
So what was your vibe about going to the main roster? Like, there's obviously there's a litany of NXT talents that have undergone big transformations as they go to the main roster or on the main roster. Like, were you excited about that idea, or was there a little trepidation for you about that?
Literally no trepidation at all. Like, I was very excited. It was sort of just, it seemed right. It seemed like for a long time I had people backstage, given how NXT sort of was presented, that would told me like, you're a main roster type of worker. Like, you definitely need to be on a Raw or SmackDown. So I thought I was perfectly matched for that, and I was happy to, if they wanted to change characters or if they wanted to experiment, do anything different, I'm always open to doing that as well. Uh, Coming into NXT, as I started to rack up victories and stuff like that, I obviously worked with Hunter and Road Dogg with like my entrance and having that whole feel. I wanted it to feel like a big monster movie, like
Yeah.
Godzilla, and they were very nice to be able to say yes and then produce everything that they produced. It looked so amazing.
Yeah.
But Hunter's directive to me was he wanted me to be myself. He wanted Bronson Reed to be authentic, not an out there over the top character, not like the plumber or the clown or anything like that. He wanted me to be me, and they showcased that obviously leading up to when I won the North American Championship, where you see what I've gone through, the story I had. I had my wife in the ring. They wanted Bronson Reed to be personable, so I was happy to do that because I'm usually pretty open with all my fans and people that do follow me. But now it seems like they want more over the top characters, which I was willing to do as well, but it just didn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, you should have just come out on the peace sign and act like a psychopath, right? Something like that. Go full Joe Gacy on him. So anyway, like, but you had seen friends of yours go through that transition. I know you're close to Shane Thorne. You guys were in
Yeah.
a stable together, the Mighty Don't Kneel. Like,
Yeah.
what's your reaction when you see your buddy and all these people taken out onto Raw and debuted under these masks as Retribution? What did you think when you saw something like that?
I mean, it was a shock. Like, I was very happy for Shane because I think he's someone that is, super talented in what he does. But I didn't think he needed to be under a mask doing some weird gimmick, like, and put in the background almost. I'm glad that now he does have another character. Again, it's over the top character, but it's something that he's personally likes and has been working with. So I think if you have like your own personal investment in it, that's when those characters do shine through. Whether it gets seen by the world, I don't know. I hope, they just had the draft. I didn't see his name anywhere. I hope that soon enough he's on a TV screen.
So wait, is it his over the top character? Is he just like Crocodile Dundee now?
Basically, very, very outback Australian, basically.
Are you pro this? You
I'm
think
pro. I'm pro anything Shane does. I like Slapjack because it was Shane.
Yeah.
Not so much the mask and the characters or Retribution, but I'll always support him with what he does. But I will say I do prefer this character of him because he can be a little bit more of himself than Slapjack.
Hey, I like Slapjack.
Yeah.
I thought you could sell 1 million action figures every kid.
I said the same thing. I said there should be Slapjack action figures straight away. Like, this was something I would have wanted as a kid.
Dude, I had my Casey Jones action figure and I
Yes.
was just like, they made a pro wrestling Casey Jones.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, man. I thought there was something there, but I guess we're going a different direction. So
Yes.
so in one of your last big, I guess, NXT appearances, may have been your last takeover, you teamed with MSK, I believe.
Yep.
What was that like to get to work with those guys? Another group of guys or another couple of guys, Shawn and Hunter, have gone out of their way to really put over,
It was really fun. Like, I think we were sort of considered. I'm in that group with those sort of guys that are considered sort of indie kids that came in and they want to polish and make you sort of different. But it was good to be able to work with them and sort of do what we do. I think we had a really fun 6-man tag with Legato, and it was very much not. I don't know how to explain it, but it was very much all our ideas that got put forward, and they liked it. So whenever you can be creative and have the producers and the people making the TV show on board, I think that's when it's at its best. When you have to dull down what you want to do, sometimes it gets a little bit boring and monotonous.
So what do you there's this report that came out in the last day or so that like there's a group of like 20 people that are like booing MSK and are
Yeah.
trying to like ruin their run. Like, as a wrestler, what do you think when you hear a story like that?
I mean, I understand what it's like to be attacked by a certain group of fans. I've had it before in the past. I still have it now that I still have my haters online usually, not at live shows. Online is where they live, and they get on the YouTube comments usually to sort of try and give me some crap, but it's whatever. But at live shows, it sort of sucks because it does hijack the matches, and then it does make it confusing for people watching at home when you got these baby faces getting booed for some reason, and it seems like it's something to do personal. I'm not 100% sure what it's about.
Right.
But I always got along with those guys. I think they're very entertaining. But I did even notice it back then when I was teaming with them in that 6-man tag. I remember coming out. I definitely love all the NXT crowd. So I usually got a good pop. And then I remember them coming out and there was some booze, and I'm like, what's going on here? I didn't quite understand what was happening. And I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I'll just do me.
Yeah, it's just weird because I like them a lot. Like,
Yeah,
I got to tell some of their stuff on the indies, and they're really cool guys, and like it just sucks for them to, because like I think they're getting less TV time because of it. I feel like they're doing less right now because it's like a weird environment for them to be in. I don't know. Could be
which
wrong.
is strange when it's given that it is a studio wrestling show now. That's what NXT definitely has become. And if it's that same core audience every week, like you're not going to change their opinion really. If it was a touring show where it was week to week, that's when you actually see who's over and who's not over. Whereas when it's an insular one place every single week, it's up to those fans who they like and who they don't.
Well, they're making they're making their choices. It's very interesting right now.
Yeah.
Well, lastly here, kind of just like looking forward, Jonah, like obviously there's a lot of opportunities for you. I mean, AEW is the second biggest company outside of WWE, at least in North America. What do you think of that product? What do you think of what AEW is doing right now? You went head to head with these guys for a year or so.
Yeah, I was always one to watch what they were doing. I would watch obviously our show, I would watch their show, and I used to like to compare and see like what could we do that was different. Whether the producers, writers, creative went down that road was, another thing. I think they've done really good to be able to build their own fan base, as well as not steal, but obviously have a lot of core WWE fans now. Almost, I have a lot of friends from back home that are like, I'm not watching WWE anymore. I'm going to watch AEW, and that's not just on WWE, but obviously on AEW putting out a good product every week. So I think they've done a great job to be able to not only come up with something that's unique and theirs, but to compete with WWE.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, well, Jonah, I want to thank you so much. It's a very busy day. I know
Yes.
we both have our friends at Ring of Honor that we want to go call right now. So I'd love to have you back. We'll put a pin in it for now. I feel like there's a lot of stuff I left on the cutting room floor, but it
Of
is what it is.
course.
So where can people go to support you right now? Where do you want to tell people to go online?
Obviously, at Jonah is here on Twitter and Instagram. I have my Pro Wrestling Tees account, which is Pro Wrestling Tees/Jonah. And I have my own podcast, which you can find on YouTube. It is called Jonah Drome, and it's also on Apple Podcast, Spotify, all those places like what yourself has.